Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Meredith E. Phillips. I'm a writer, reader, and bunny mama. Today I'm going to have the first video in a mini series on creating story ideas, how to organize your story ideas, and getting through that first rough draft. One of the common questions that I see writers asking all the time, and readers and writers asking published or big name authors, is where did you get your idea? Where did the idea come from? How do you get your ideas? And it's such a hard question to answer, and I don't feel like anyone can tell you exactly, oh, I just did A, B, C, D, and here it was. It doesn't work that way. There isn't a solid answer to where to get story ideas. It's true that sometimes they just kind of pop into your head, and I'm sure there's some influence for them from somewhere, but pinning down exactly where it came from is really difficult. But if you're stuck and you feel like you just don't have any big ideas going on, I have some tips for you today for how to get some story ideas. My first tip is pretty common, and it's to think about what if questions. What if society was exactly the same except this one element was changed? What if my parents were exactly as they are now, but we changed how old they are? Think about all kinds of different ways that life could be almost exactly the same, but change some integral portion of it. Or if you want to go in more of a fantasy, sci-fi kind of route, think about technology. One single piece of technology that might change how we live our normal lives. Think about magical creatures, or if magic was real in our society, how would that change things? How would that change the government? How would that change the economy? What if? What if I didn't go to the grocery store and I hadn't bumped into this person there, and then I hadn't met them again in this place, and we hadn't started hanging out over here? Think about what if questions. Just let yourself go nuts. If you want to jot down the ideas as they're coming to you, that's great. You can mull them over in your brain for a while. Some of the things you come up with might seem really kind of stupid at first. What if trees were purple instead of green? It kind of sounds silly, but write it down. You never know what goofy little thing is going to evolve into a different kind of idea. So don't prejudge your ideas before they've even had a chance to grow. The second tip I have for you is to take a mundane object and put it into a different type of setting. So what I mean by this is to take something that you see every day or almost every day, or it is just a normal occurrence in your everyday life, and transport that item to somewhere where you would never find it, and see what kind of story you can come up with from there. I did this one time and got really excited about an idea. I was trying to think of what kind of random mundane object there was, and I thought of garbage trucks. There was a garbage truck going by in our street. Garbage trucks, okay, we see those all the time. We barely even think about them. Where would I never see a garbage truck? I would never see one in space, that's for sure. So I actually had like this huge idea planned about these garbage trucks in space. I was real excited about it, but then I realized I don't really read a whole lot of sci-fi. So the idea of writing some sort of sci-fi space kind of book might not be the best direction for me, but I have a whole bunch of ideas written down for that garbage trucks in space book, okay? So maybe one day it'll happen. The next tip I have for you is to listen to song lyrics. If you're listening to song lyrics that are really specifically about a certain thing, I wouldn't necessarily go with that, but if you find some groups that have a little more ambiguous lyrics that could mean one thing or another, they can be really cool to kind of pick apart and pick out different phrases that stand out to you for whatever reason. Just jot down the phrases and see if you can generate some ideas from that. I got some really cool ideas from a Muse song one time. They're written down and waiting for me to develop them further if I like. One other idea to try if you're feeling a little crafty is grab a pile of magazines, start flipping through them, and cut out any pictures that are interesting to you for whatever reason. Maybe the person in the ad looks particularly intriguing. Maybe there's a beautiful picture of a landscape. Maybe there's a really cool gadget, whatever it might be. Cut out the pictures. Don't think too much about why you're cutting it out. If it looks good to you, cut it out. When you've got a pile of pictures, start putting them next to each other. Make a collage if you like, or you could take pictures and just sort of put them next to each other and see if matching up those images creates any kind of story ideas in your mind. Another tip is to go outside. Now, I don't right now recommend going outside and going to a place where there are a lot of other people, but I'm talking about just a walk through your neighborhood or around the area where you live. Go outside and try not to take your phone with you. If you need to take it with you for safety reasons, that's totally fine, but try not to be looking at your phone. I think a lot of times if we go for a walk, or we're looking down at our phone and texting people or doing whatever, and no, go outside and really look around you. Don't just look at the ground. Don't just look at what you can see at eye level. Look up. And then look up farther. Look around, walk slowly, look at the details. What can you see outside of people's homes? What kinds of decorations do they have? What kind of plant life do they have? Is there that one house in your neighborhood that's kind of a little rundown and creepy, and maybe you can go by that a couple times? See if you can notice some cool details. Sometimes those little tiny details in our everyday lives that we just walk past on a normal basis can be really inspirational when we really take time to think about why is that thing there, or what could be sinister about it if I wanted to make a sinister kind of story. What could be a portal into some sort of magical universe? I don't know. Just take some time to observe without being distracted by your phone. Although if you're in Texas, do not recommend going outside. It's really awful out here. So once you've done this sort of idea gathering, you might have a list of a lot of random stuff. It could be a really general premise. It could be a specific kind of character. It could be a specific kind of setting. So how do you then take those ideas and stretch them out into a full-length story idea? The first thing to think about is what kind of conflict might there be within that initial premise or those characters? What problems might this character face in life? Where do they live? What kind of conflict might there be in the premise that you've thought up? So think through, because any story, any good story is going to have conflict at the center of it. There's got to be some sort of problem that we have to solve, and the conflict needs to be interesting. So start making a list of conflict possibilities. I will say that the first couple things that you think of are probably going to be really cliche. They've been done a million times before. Maybe you've thought of a cool way to twist it or turn it on its head a little bit. That's awesome. But a lot of times the very first things that pop to mind are things we've seen other places. And it's fine to still write those things down, but push yourself to continue writing more ideas beyond those first initial ones that you might have. The second thing to think about is what kind of characters are present in these story ideas. If you've thought of a cool story idea that's going to take place in a desert, your main character or one of the characters within that story might be an archaeological figure like Indiana Jones. It might be a tribe of Bedouin. It might be some sort of group of lost people who are traversing a desert. I don't know, whatever it might be. But there are certain types of people that you're probably not going to find in a desert. A 12-year-old girl, probably not going to be out there all by herself. Maybe she is, and maybe you've got a really good reason for her being out there, but think about the types of people who would have a reason to be in those settings. And if you do have a very unusual character in those settings, your reason for them being there had better be convincing. Otherwise, you're going to lose the readers before the story even really starts. So again, brain dump all of these kinds of ideas and don't prejudge the ideas. Just get them down on paper and let them sit there. Push yourself to think beyond those first initial thoughts that you've had. After you've got a huge list of different types of ideas, let it sit for a little while. Maybe you just need a day, maybe you need a week, maybe you can come back to it every couple of days and you're gonna add to it further. You should not expect that you're going to get every single idea for all of these stories within that first brain dump session. All the different things we do through our day, whether it's eating certain kinds of food, watching certain kinds of TV shows, things we might see on a walk we take around our neighborhood, whatever it might be, a lot of times those things trigger other ideas in our mind. So give it some time to marinate, give it some time to evolve on its own. Once you've come back to this list many times and and you've got an extensive list, I would encourage you then to go back and look and see if there's any of these ideas, whether it's the conflict, the initial story premise, the setting, whatever it might be, see if there's any that can be combined in an interesting way. You might have thought of a really cool idea for a character 2 days ago, and then today you thought of a really neat setting, and the two of them would actually go together really well. So read through the list, think about what might go together, and make some notes to yourself about that. There are 2 more places that you can look to find some inspiration, and they are some of the other videos I've made in previous weeks. Last week, I made a video on writing resources. I'll link that in the cards and of course down below. Several of these resources are places that you can go for inspiration for different things. Check out that video and those resources. The other video is one I posted several weeks back. It's the story starter prompt, little crafty idea, and it can be really helpful if you're looking to find some story ideas for yourself. So again, I'll link those below and you can check them out after this video. So at this point, you should have a massive list of all the creative ideas that you've thought of over the last several days, weeks, maybe a month or two. Now you're maybe a little bit lost about where to put all this stuff, how to store it, how to organize it so that you can easily weed through the things that are good and bad and you want to use and you don't want to use. Next week, I'm going to be sharing some tips about how to organize these ideas so you can come back to them months or even years later and be able to find them, because an idea that was awesome and you wrote it on a post-it note and the post-it note is lost, it's not a very good way to organize your ideas and remember them for the future. So if you want to make sure that you do not miss that video when it comes out, please subscribe to my channel. I post new videos on Tuesdays and Fridays. If you liked this video, do give it a thumbs up. That lets me know that you enjoyed the content, and I'll be able to keep creating videos similar to this one. I also try to be active over on Instagram, so if you'd like to follow me over there, the link to my page is below, and you can find me at Meredith Phillips Writes. If you have any tips for creating story ideas, do let us know in the comments. I am always looking for different ways to improve my creative thinking, and I'd love to hear about yours. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye. If you have any great ideas for, if you have any great tips for how to create, if you have any